The rain fell in silver sheets across the city, turning sidewalks into glistening rivers and soaking the shoes of those unfortunate enough to forget their umbrellas. Cars moved slowly through the traffic-clogged streets, their headlights blurred by mist and water. Amid it all, the towering silhouette of Silvertide Corp loomed like a monument to modern ambition, all steel, glass, and perfection. Inside the building's top floor, Evelyn Hart stood near the wide window of her corner office, arms crossed, watching the storm roll in. Her reflection stared back at her, a sharp jawline, cold eyes, and not a strand of hair out of place. Her assistant had just briefed her on another acquisition, another deal that would make headlines. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, all she could think about was how quiet everything had become. She turned away from the glass, slipped on her trench coat, and stepped into the elevator without a word. Once in the lobby, her staff offered polite nods, but no one dared speak to her unless spoken to. She was a legend, brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. Outside, a black company car waited by the curb. Her driver, James, stepped forward to hold the umbrella, but Evelyn raised a hand. "I'll walk the first block," she said, surprising even herself. The rain kissed her face as she stepped into it, cool and soft. It smelled like earth and memory. Her heels tapped steadily against the wet concrete. Then she heard it, a voice, small and almost drowned by the sound of the downpour. "Ma'am." Evelyn stopped. The voice came again, shakier this time. "Excuse me, ma'am." She turned and scanned the scene. There, just outside the company's main gate, stood a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Her oversized yellow raincoat hung off her tiny frame, the sleeves past her fingertips. She held a piece of soggy cardboard over her head in a feeble attempt to shield herself from the rain. Her shoes were mismatched, one sneaker, one slipper. Her big brown eyes were locked onto Evelyn's face with a strange mixture of hope and desperation. "Who are you?" Evelyn asked, frowning, stepping closer. "I'm Lena," the girl said quietly. "I'm looking for my mama." Evelyn's heart stumbled in her chest. The girl opened her backpack with shaking hands and pulled out a crumpled photo, protected in a sandwich bag. It showed a young woman, smiling, full of life, holding the same little girl on her hip. Evelyn took the picture but said nothing. There was no recognition. The woman wasn't someone she knew. "I thought maybe someone in the big building would know her," Lena said, her voice nearly swallowed by the rain. "But they didn't. And I don't want to go back to the house they put me in. They're not mean but they're not mama." Evelyn crouched slowly, eye level with the girl now. She looked smaller up close, too thin for her age, cheeks pink from the cold. The backpack on her shoulders looked like it belonged to a high school student, not a child. "Where are your parents?" Evelyn asked softly. Lena hesitated. "I don't have a mama anymore. She went to the stars." Evelyn swallowed hard, unsure why the words pierced her so deeply. The girl took a shaky breath and looked up, pleading now. "Can I spend just one day with you, ma'am?" The simplicity of the question hit Evelyn like a punch. She, who negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking, who was named most powerful woman in business 3 years running, found herself speechless in front of a soaked little girl asking for just a day of her time. Not money, not help, just a day. A long pause followed. The only sound was the rain and the distant echo of a car horn. "You don't know me," Evelyn said finally. "Why ask me?" "Because," Lena said, smiling faintly, "you looked kind." Kind. It was a word Evelyn hadn't heard associated with herself in, maybe ever. She didn't know what possessed her to nod, to extend her hand and say, "Come on, let's get you out of the rain." But she did, and Lena's small hand slid trustingly into hers. As they walked toward the car, sharing the umbrella, Evelyn had the strangest feeling in her chest. It wasn't fear, it wasn't regret, it was something far more dangerous. Hope. The interior of the sleek black car smelled faintly of leather and lavender polish. The silence between Evelyn and the little girl was almost complete, broken only by the occasional rhythmic swipe of the windshield wipers and the soft hum of the engine. Evelyn sat straight-backed, hands neatly folded in her lap, her phone silent for the first time in years. Next to her, Lena sat with her legs swinging slightly off the edge of the leather seat, her soaked backpack clutched tightly against her chest. She hadn't said much since getting in the car, just stared out the window at the passing city lights, wide-eyed and solemn. Evelyn, for her part, wasn't sure what to do. This was a child, not a problem to solve or a deal to negotiate. She told herself she'd bring the girl home, give her a meal, let her warm up, then call the right authorities. That would be the reasonable, responsible thing to do. But reason had never felt so distant. "Your car is really quiet," Lena said suddenly, breaking the silence. Her voice was gentle, curious, not afraid. "Is that because you're really rich?" Evelyn glanced over at her. "It's an electric engine," she said, unsure why she was explaining it. "And yes, I suppose so. Do you live in a castle?" Evelyn almost smiled. "No, just a tall building." "Do you have toys?" "No," Evelyn replied, a little surprised by the question. "Not really." Lena thought about that for a moment, frowning slightly. "That's kind of sad." Evelyn didn't answer. She looked out the opposite window, trying to make sense of this surreal moment. No one had called her sad before. Not in years. Not since. Well, never mind. When they arrived at her building, Evelyn hesitated, wondering for a brief moment if she was doing something dangerous or foolish. But when Lena reached for her hand to help climb out of the car, Evelyn didn't pull away. They walked through the polished marble lobby, past the doorman, and into the private elevator. Lena's eyes darted around, fascinated by everything, the glowing buttons, the mirrored walls, the soft music playing overhead. "This is like a spaceship," she whispered. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and Evelyn led her into the penthouse. It was vast and open, all glass and steel, polished concrete floors and minimalist furniture. It looked more like a showroom than a home. Lena paused, her eyes widening. "Wow," she breathed, "it's really shiny." Evelyn dropped her keys into a ceramic dish and turned to find Lena standing in the middle of the living room, soaking wet and dripping onto the white rug. "Come on," she said gently. "Let's get you dry." She led the girl into the guest bathroom, handed her a clean towel and one of her old t-shirts, the smallest thing she owned, though still far too big. Lena disappeared behind the door, and when she returned, her hair was wild and fluffy, her cheeks freshly scrubbed. The t-shirt hung like a dress. "I look silly," she said, giggling. "You look warm," Evelyn replied, a hint of something soft in her voice. In the kitchen, Evelyn pulled out a frozen pizza, one of the few edible things she had in her otherwise meticulously empty fridge. As it baked, Lena explored. She opened drawers, peeked under furniture, and eventually discovered a pile of decorative throw pillows stacked on a bench. With a squeal, she began building. By the time the pizza was ready, the living room had been transformed into a chaotic fortress of cushions and blankets. Evelyn stared at the mess, one eyebrow raised. "Do you want to eat at the table or in your castle?" she asked. "In the castle, of course," Lena grinned. They sat on the floor, plates balanced on their laps. The pizza was too hot, the cheese too gooey, but Lena seemed to think it was the best thing she'd ever eaten. She told Evelyn about her old school, about her stuffed bunny named Button, and how she used to watch the stars with her mom. Her voice grew quiet at that last part. Evelyn listened, really listened, in a way she hadn't in years. Later, as the cartoons played on the massive television and Lena nestled beside her under a thick blanket, she asked the question again. "Do you think, maybe I could stay just a little longer?" Evelyn didn't answer right away. She looked down at the child curled against her side, trusting her, already attached. "Yes," she said finally, so softly it surprised even her. "You can stay."